season. Well, say opening in their 3 matchups this season. It's been pretty much a cakewalk every single time. New York were meant to be this team that were able to give Boston a run for their money. Go out. They had Mikal Bridges. They had OG Anunoby. They added Karl-Anthony Towns, and it just doesn't seem to be working for them. So we want to talk about this, obviously, from a Celtics perspective. Celtics coming off their third win against New York this season, and they eliminated New York from the 40-20 club. I'm joined by my boy Wayne Breezie. You can tell I'm not used to doing these live streams like no, what's popping, Wayne?
What's going on, man? Adam, it's good to be here, man. The Celtics continue to do what the Celtics continue to do, and that's dominate. And you saw a purely dominated game. I understand New York went on a little crazy run. Celtics were just playing with their food. It's what they do. But I like what they did, man. They responded, they reacted, and they finished strong. And again, man, 41st win on the season. You definitely got to commend the Boston Celtics coach Joe Mazzulla getting his team back on board. And like you said, this is a team they've pretty much dominated and controlled all season long. And regardless of what they add, I thought last year's Knicks team would have gave the Celtics a better run for the money, but they definitely went and added some key pieces that they thought would help get them over the top. They are third in the NBA East, so they're not a slouch, but they're no contest to the Boston Celtics.
Not yet, not yet. I think they're a year away. There's still a lot of like development they need to do as a unit. You've added all these guys like OG's meant to be a great defender. Mikal Bridges is meant to be a great defender. But then you're asking them to help out for Towns. You're asking them to help out for Brunson. Both of those guys are targets. They might look different when Mitch is back but from a Celtic standpoint, it's not easy, but they played with their food. They allowed New York back into this game. And if they didn't allow them back into this game, it would have been ugly. And then I'll kind of worry for Tibbs then because they're coming into this game off a blowout loss to Cleveland. I was expecting New York to be super up for this. So the way the Celtics started and just dominated transition points early, getting the ball up across the floor quick as possible, that just felt to me like Boston wanted no part of a New York kind of like resurgence. Brunson obviously did what Brunson does in the third, but for the Celtics, man, this was, I'm not going to say an easy win, but it also didn't feel like it was a statement win either. It felt like the Knicks wasn't a challenge. And that's tough, man, because they're meant to be, as you said, they're third in the East. They're meant to be a big time threat to Boston. And at the minute, it looks like a 2-horse race out in the East at the moment. It's just Cleveland and Boston and everybody else.
Yeah, and that's what the Celtics want it to be like, right? I think they want the rest of the NBA and the rest of the world to know that they're not playing any games. And when I look at the Boston Celtics, I say every game they need to turn it up a different notch, like whatever notch. I feel like the Celtics definitely control the temperature on how they play, right? And so they decide when they're going to crank it up. They decide when they're going to do this. What I liked from the Celtics in this game is they came out with the intensity. Sometimes I feel like that intensity is lacking. The energy is a little low. The Celtics were at home and they came out fired up. They were hitting their shots. And that's what we need from the Boston Celtics for the remaining, 25 games left on the regular season. That's what we need. Intensity every night, whether they're at home, whether they're on the road. They need to start off like on fire. And that doesn't mean just hitting shots. I'm talking defense intensity. I'm talking just moving around to the ball. I watched the best perimeter defense I've ever seen all season long in this game. Couple of shots they left wide open because they failed to get back in transition. But I'm just talking about just defending the perimeter, and Luke Cornett continues to ball out night in, night out. Like this guy continues to transcend upwards just from a basketball perspective, Adam. I'm not looking for 10 points, 20 points. I'm not looking for any of that from Luke Cornett. I'm looking for him to be effective on the basketball court.
Yeah, Luke Cornett's been fantastic. I can't sing his praise enough, man. His movement without the ball, his willingness to screen, his size, his hands, the ability to make sacrificial cuts, just knowing that it's going to open somebody else up. Just a selfless ball player. I put a post out yesterday, I think it was like, coming into the season, it was kind of like a battle between Cornett and Nimi for that third big spot. Cornett solidified that. We rarely see Nimi these days. It's garbage time or if you need an energy boost. And that tells you everything about the way Cornett's been this year. In terms of like the way the perimeter defense, I thought that the Celtics did really well, navigated screens really well. Jaylen Brown had some good possessions on ball defense. Jayson Tatum had some really good possessions defensively early in the first. and then again in the second. I do think that just as a unit, this team has switched it back on. I think that over like December into January, there was a few times where you like everybody was questioning whether this team was going to be able to flip that switch, and that was always my worry. Like, hey, it's one thing saying when they need to flip the switch, they will. It's another actually being able to do it. They flipped that switch early before the All Star break. They're playing great now. Jason Tatum 1 assist away from a triple double, which would have been his second in 2 games. Playing great basketball. Jaylen Brown super aggressive. I like that there's developing 2-man games again. So we got that KP cooking and cream with JB. We've got Tatum and KP. We got Tatum and Cornette. You've got Derrick White just being a monster, right? You don't win this game without Derrick White's playing the fourth. Derrick White was the guy to me that really kind of said, okay, New York's put that run together in the third. Now we need to stop it. I'm going to step up and I'm going to do what I need to do. I like the way he broke up that 4-on-1 fast break where he
Yeah.
tempted Brunson into that lob, swatted that lob, let everybody get back and build back out to the ball. There's just a lot to be excited about with the way the Celtics team are playing. Everybody's kind of gelled together. Everything's just clicking again. And when you was watching them a month ago, 6 weeks ago, the concern was that wasn't going to happen. So to see them come in straight back from the All Star break and pick up straight away, hit the ground running 2 games in a row, that's encouraging to me. Also, if you're watching on Twitter right now, make sure to head over to YouTube and subscribe to the Celtics Chronicle channel. Trying to grow it. So, if you're watching live there, you might as well just pop over and click subscribe. If you're watching live on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe and leave a comment and subscribe to the Celtics Chronicle newsletter. Do me the favor. It's free. Well, there's a free version. Wayne, how you feeling? Just overall, big picture, man. Like we can talk about the Knicks in a minute, but big picture, how you feeling about this season team?
I mean, big picture, you talked about probably one of the unsung heroes. I mean, a lot of people love Derrick White, but he was having a few down games. He had like a down month in the NBA.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he was kind of questioning himself. I mean, it was kind of crazy to hear them talk about it on the live broadcast, like how he didn't feel happy, like just coming to the games, like something was missing. It's funny that he said that because that's a real thing. That's a real thing. And I don't know if there's something that you love to do out there, something that you're passionate about. For me, it's music, sports, obviously. But I'm a musician by trade. And sometimes when I go out at night, Adam, I don't want to be there. Like I don't feel like it's fun. It's not fun. It's not fun. When you're not having fun, it's really hard to give. I feel like Derrick White is back to having fun. I mean, the kid shot 7 for 10 from the floor tonight, but it's just about him and his aggressiveness and him having fun on the basketball court. I wouldn't say he's the glue of the team, but he's definitely a key component, not just from a scoring perspective, but just from just the tenacity of which he brings to the Boston Celtics night in and night out. And so overall, grand scheme of things, man, the Celtics look good. Everybody's playing their role. You put everybody in their role just a few seconds ago. You said aggressiveness from Jaylen Brown. You got the mindset and the IQ from Jayson Tatum. Kristaps Porzingis, the length and him being able to just find the mismatches and do what he does. He's out there. Derrick White being tenacious. Drew Holiday, no one's going to give him credit. We talked about him not even playing much the rest of the season just to be ready for the playoffs. And he's been a defensive prow and presence on the basketball court. Like this guy, Drew, if he can give you 14 tonight, I'm cool with it. But it's just the rest of the stuff that he brings to the table and being able to switch on to just about anybody out there on the basketball court. And then overall, in the grand scheme of things as well, we got to look at our bench, man. Peyton Pritchard, 6th man in the year. Give him the award now. Peyton Pritchard, don't accept the award. Continue to go out there, ball out night in and night out. I like what I saw from Sam Hauser. Didn't realize he was dealing with, I mean, obviously, I know he has these back issues, but didn't realize that they could really be affecting his shot. But it was good to see him get a few shots to fall in. If the bench continues to do what they do, man, the Celtics are going to be unstoppable. And like I said, bro, they continue to find ways. They control their temperature. Like they control it. Like, yeah, man, let's kick it up full. Let's kick it up to 98 degrees. You know what? Let's bring it back down to 77. We could go 65, but nothing below 65. Like we're gonna keep it copacetic. That's the Celtics right now. That's scary, bro.
And talking of temperature, I had an analogy pop into my head earlier, which we can use now. You kind of just open the door for me. That was how I felt the third quarter went. So when it's like it's cold outside, you've got the heating on inside, or you're warming the crib up, and then it gets too warm. So it's cold outside, so you need to open the window to let that breeze in. The Celtics were cooking in the first two, so they opened that window just to let themselves cool off a little bit. The Knicks took advantage. Then they were like, right, then time to close that window and let that heat build back. that was kind of the flow of the game for me. They warmed up, they got hot, they cooled off a little bit, let Knicks get back into it, and then just shut down and controlled it there. I do want to say what I thought was interesting as well was there's two energy guys on the bench in Nimi and Tari Craig. And when you look at the way New York was playing, one thing that I was in the back of my mind was like, yo, if New York start the fourth, the way they ended the third, you might be time to plug and play some of these energy guys. Put Tyreek Craig in there, see if his athleticism can help. If another 3-point threat. Put Nemi in there, see if just his physicality and size could help. Didn't need to go to either of them. And what's scary is the main Celtics rotation, the one we saw tonight, the 8-man rotation, that has another gear it can get to, or another 2 gears they can get to when they need to. And now you have 2 energy guys that can come in and just change the course and flow of a game for 2 to 5 minutes before you plug guys back in and let them ride that wave. So there's a lot to be excited about just in general, just in terms of, yo, this Celtics team looks great now. They look like they're one of the elite teams they are, but they're playing elite level basketball and they can still get better. But they also have guys that can come in and change the flow of the game if they need to. And the fact that Missoula didn't even feel like that was necessary during that third quarter run from New York, that was big for me
It
because
was
that shows that he was so trusting.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the key, right? Can I trust my guys? Do I have to waste the time out? Do I have to stop the flow? Can they fight back? It's kind of Greg Popovich, if you think about it, and he allowed his guys to do it. I mean, of course, the correct timeouts were called at the right times, but you heard them say also on the broadcast, they said, he trusts his players, man. He likes this. This is like a growing pain for them. They got a crazy lead up by 27 at one point, and they allowed this team to kind of claw themselves and come back and scrap back. How do we remain? How do we respond and be resilient? And the Celtics did that. Called the quick timeout, probably got in their tails. After that, next thing you know, here comes Jaylen Brown, right? Jaylen Brown's energy around the rim. Jaylen Brown hitting the 3-point shot. And I like the fact that Derrick White, after turning the ball over, then he hit the next 2 threes, right? Like that was crazy to me. So you were right. He stopped that surge. That was when they were the Knicks were trailing by 4 in the third quarter. And then Derrick White came out and was like, nah, son, I'll stop this real quick. And he had a contested 3 too on Anunoby. Like that was crazy. Like I was like, bro, why are you shooting this shot? And it said Swift. Like it went just right in. So you're getting really, you know what? We're not talking about their confidence in the Boston Celtics. We're talking about this great play. This is that and the third. Yo, these fellas are starting to show that they're confident. That is hard to defeat, when team knows they ain't afraid. Now, I'm not saying like they but they know they're not afraid of anybody. And we talked about this earlier, man. Like looking out the West, I feel like the toughest team that they will have to face if they face them in the NBA Finals, obviously would be the OKC Thunder. It's just because of the way they're matched up. They're built off of speed. You got SGA, and they can score, right? They might not be able to shoot as well, but they can score. So that would be a tough matchup for the Celtics. But right now, they got to let everybody know that they're the kings of the East. I believe they're 5.5 games behind right now, if I'm not mistaken. Or is it 6? Is it 5 games? I know they're 6 games behind, but they just won. So I don't, and Cleveland didn't play yet. So I'm not sure how that works.
I'm just pulling the standings up now. So the Celtics, you were right, 5.5 games behind.
Okay, 5.5 games.
And I'm okay with that. Like, whatever happens, happens. The Cavs had like a ridiculously hot start to the season. They went on that big unbeaten run. Are they better than the Celtics? Probably not. Are they a big threat? Definitely.
Mhm.
I think that saying no, they're not a threat is just bullshit, because then if it goes 7 games, you've kind of talked yourself into this mindset that it shouldn't have gone 7 games. You're going to be unhappy that the 1 seed and the 2 seed in the conference final. It just doesn't make sense. I do think I did come into the season thinking the Knicks were going to be a bigger threat. Obviously, that hasn't played out that way, and it is Cleveland. What I will say is that Brunson kind of still showed what the Celtics struggle with: shifty, speedy guards that can score off the bounce. And the Thunder have that. The Cavaliers have that. SGA, Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, good point.
The Knicks have that. There's a couple of teams out there that one of their lead scorers, if not their number one guy, is a quick, speedy guard that can score off the bounce. I just don't know how the Celtics kind of live with that. If I'm the Celtics, I'm like, right, you can score. I want to shut everybody else down around you, because for some reason That's been the team's Achilles heel all the way back to the Brad Stevens era when Brad Stevens was coaching. And it just is what it is at this point. You come in expecting that to happen now.
Is that because they build their team off of wings, though, right? Like you think about it, like
Mm,
it's a wing based team, positionless kind of based team. They do have their point guards, but not those quick, smaller. I think the shortest point guard we probably had was probably Isaiah Thomas at the time, and he was kind of quicky and bouncy. And teams were it was hard to defend, him, for the other
yeah.
teams. The Celtics seemed to go a different route. They kind of got a little bit bigger when they got Kyrie. He was 6'3", and now you look at the 6'4", Derrick White, and Drew Holiday. I believe that's their heights, and so they're a little taller, a little bit girthier, a little bit bigger, but not as quick and fast. So I feel like that's because they based their team off of bigger guys. Maybe probably to kind of like get bodies on them, rough those guys, small guys up, but they got to be able to defend these guys catching and shooting because that's the key. Like they got to defend those guys.
Yeah, and I think that's what the Celtics do really well. They can cross match with anybody. I feel just as comfortable putting Drew on a 5 as what I do putting him on a 1. I feel just as comfortable having Derrick White switch onto a 4, knowing that he's going to get underneath, he's going to stay pesky with his hands, as I do having him guarding a 1 or a 2. Now, what you lose in defense against these shiftier guards, you actually gain in overall defensive versatility in the rotation itself. You've got 5 guys on the floor, and out of this 8-man rotation, there's 6, maybe 7 dudes that can guard 2, 3 different positions, maybe 4 if you're very lucky, depending on which player we're talking about at the time. It's only really Pritchard that you don't feel super comfortable having guarding multiple guys. That versatility to me is far more important than being able to shut down one prototype of a player, being that small shifty guard. You kind of live with that based on everything else that this defense can do. They, as I say, they, as you said, they can guard wings, they can cross match, they can shut you down, they pinch at the elbows to try and take away those drives. They rotate well, they scram well. They do so many good things that if it's just you're going to have to live with a 20 to 25 point night from a Donovan Mitchell or an
Mhm.
SGA. Well, they were going to get that anyway. You're not
Mhm.
going to stop them. So why try and build for that? You're built to contain an entire offense. I think they do a great job of that.
Yeah, and it shows, man. Their defense is definitely trending up. And again, I mean, on ball defense, off ball, like everything is just looking really good. And like I said, I'm really happy to see them rotate out there on the perimeter. They're forcing guys to take more contested shots. And I get that the ball moves fast, but the Celtics are starting to kind of like, you know, kind of step up in that
Yeah.
area on their defense. And whether that shot goes in or not, I just want to see contest, like contest the shot. Don't leave a wide open shooter. Like if you want to piss me off, stop leaving shooters. Start leaving them wide. Like don't leave them wide open. And the Celtics are doing really good at that. They got a 2-game road trip coming up, and they're back to back nights. Man, they're gonna be hitting Toronto, which, like you said, can't play with the food with these teams, man. I understand that Toronto. I understand that even Detroit is a top 10 team. Probably still ranked number 6 if I'm not mistaken, 5 or 6. I understand they're top, but you can't play around with these teams. The Celtics game plan and mindset has to be the same night in and night out, as if they were playing the Cavs every single night. And if I'm the Celtics, that's how I'm looking at it. I got Cavs on my schedule every single game for the remainder of the season. Even though we played them once more, and we close out with them in the month of February before we get to March, right? So we close out with them. We have a 2-game series lead against those, and I'm expecting it to be a 3-1 game series. I love what we're getting from the Boston Celtics right now. They continue to stay hot like this and turn it up and flick switches. We're going to be just fine, man.
Yeah, we spoke about Toronto and Detroit on Wednesday's live stream. So for anybody watching on Twitter, we do a live stream like this every Wednesday around about between noon and 1 p.m. Eastern. If you are watching on Twitter, make sure you head over to YouTube and subscribe to the Celtics Chronicle YouTube channel. Hit subscribe to the newsletter too. There's a free tier there. The one thing you mentioned there was watching the Cavs because there's one more game in that series. I think one thing to point out now is the Celtics have beat the Knicks 3 times. So they end the season with a win on that series. There's one more game against New York. I believe it's in April. I might be wrong. I remember I've done a Knicks kind of preview yesterday on a Knicks show. And one thing I did say was if the Knicks won today, then it would have meant that that April game actually had some like riding on it, because New York would have wanted to tie the season series, Boston would have wanted to win. That would have been a dope game to watch. Just a little bit of pride on there. That's done. Boston's got the mental advantage going into the postseason.
Yeah.
I want them to kind of do that against Cleveland too. But overall, yeah, as you said, two away games now. You got Detroit, you got Toronto. I think Detroit are being slept on a lot in discussions. They are six in the NBA right now. I think Bickerstaff's done a great job since taking over there. They made some key additions during the summer. Do I think they can beat the Celtics? Yeah. I mean, if Boston don't come to play, or they,
Good point.
they take this team too lightly, then yeah, because Detroit are playing well. Cunningham's finally showing what made him that kind of like draft Twitter darling a few years back.
Mhm.
He's really balling out at the moment. I think I'm a big fan of Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duran. Um, but if the Celtics come in with the mentality of like, yo, we're rolling towards the end of the season, we're trying to build something here, then this should be another two more wins. And I think we get big JT games in both.
Yeah, I mean, JT, JB, it doesn't really matter. They just got to go out there and just get the job done. And remember, they're playing on the road. I think we're the best road team in the NBA currently now, and we play well together. It's like they come together on the road and be like, "Listen, this ain't our home, but let's make it our home." And I think the Celtics get a kick out of doing stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just super happy. Celtics get to 41 wins. They're on a 5-game win streak. They could potentially go on a 6-game, 7-game, maybe even an 8-game win streak just to close out the month of February. I think that would be an amazing stretch for the Boston Celtics. And again, if they're once the Celtics are heating up, like I don't know if they're full scorch hot, but they're continuously finding ways again to turn up that dial. Man, I don't know if that needs to be a show title or what, but they're figuring things out. And the moment you said or you see or you feel like the Celtics are going to be off, a player steps up. And I feel like this team is built with, a bunch of leaders, but knowing when to fall back and let the leader lead, I think is most important. There's nights where Jaylen Brown's going to be the leader. Everybody falls back and follows that lead. There's nights Jayson Tatum is going to be a leader. Everybody falls back, follows that lead. Derrick White, Kristaps, like they all have that leadership capability. If you got that many leaders as well as like followers on the same team, it's going to be really hard. And we still haven't even tapped the potential of what Torrey Craig is going to be able to bring to this team because he did not play tonight, right? So I'm excited to see what he's going to bring. I expect him to give us some stuff in these back-to-back games, though.
Yeah, I think he's a depth piece. I think what you saw in this game is probably what you're going to see in the playoffs. Just you don't see him, and if you do, it's because you need that energy boost, as we spoke about earlier. And for the rest of the season, it's going to be depth and health. Hey, we don't want to risk somebody on a back-to-back, so we've got, if you sit Horford and you don't want to go big with Nemi, you can plug Tari into that rotation as one of those guys and feel fine about it. So I do think he'll have some time to shine. I'm not sure how much he'll get in the playoffs. Just want to shout out Jack, said, hey, Adam and Wayne. So I just want to shout
Hey,
hello.
Jax.
Outside of that, you mentioned leaders. And I think one thing that goes under the radar a lot, and it's kind of been the number one thing for me to praise Joe Mazzulla on over the last 12 months, is it's one thing to get given a team that's elite and everybody can look at Joe and be like, oh, well, anyone can win with this team, right? You've got given the most OP team in the world. It's very easy to win. I think that the one thing that you need to praise Joe on is he's got everybody to buy in. He's got everybody to accept the roles that you said that, this is a collective leadership. We don't have one leader. And it's one of the reasons why the captaincy discussion's been cropping up again lately, because Jaylen Brown used the word captain when he was talking about himself. And I think the discussions that have come off of that have been actually quite enlightening, where it's like, they embrace collective leadership. Yes, Jaylen and Jayson are like the two co-captains, so to speak. But as you said, sometimes you need Derrick White to step up and lead for 5-10 minutes, as he did in the fourth, and everybody else falls in line and follows that lead. And I think that having a coach that embraces that mental aspect and the sacrificial aspect that comes with being willing to let somebody else take that limelight for a moment, that's been Joe's biggest win since taking over this team.
Yeah, I agree 1000%. And a lot of credit doesn't go to the coach. They think coaches just call up plays, X's and O's, things like that. Let's talk about managing these players. Let's talk about taking egos and finding ways to put these egos in boxes. Celtics are laced with at least two superstars, a bunch of all stars, and just stars, and
Yeah.
they find ways to go to manage that. Like Joe is figuring out, all right, man, I know I got a lot of egos, but I need everybody to check their egos at the door, and the ball will be equally just distributed at some point. You will get your chance, you will get your shot, make the best of the opportunities that you get. And so when you look at Coach Joe Mazzulla, this is something that he's done really great, as far as getting into the mindset of these young like stars that are not even that are just entering their prime. Like Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum are just like they just got like to the P in prime. They got like five other letters to go, right? Like P. Wait, let me just count. Prime. They got four more letters to go, right? Like I just wanted to make sure I got that right.
Now
All right,
five, man. We can include the exclamation mark.
yeah, and then put the bang on it at the end of
Yeah,
it,
for
right? You
sure,
know what
dude.
I mean? I'm trying to tell you. So they're just getting to it. And so, like, the fact that he has these young guys here, they're playing on supermax deals. I don't see Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum flossing that they're supermax players. Do you know
Nope.
how hard it is to manage that? So Coach Joe Mazzulla definitely gets props for that, as well as Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens, is doing a great job, behind the scenes with everything, making sure that his guys are taken care of, adding the right pieces, doing these things. I think the Celtics definitely have a great opportunity at running this back for the 19th banner. And if they figure out how to win that 19th, good luck, NBA, because they got the formula and they're going to continue to find ways to run because they're not looking to get rid of probably anybody at any time soon. Yeah, we'll talk contracts at the end of the season, but Celtics look like they're creating a dynasty over here.
And if you're trying to catch up in one summer, look at what the Knicks are going through right now as a reason why that
It
doesn't
takes
always work. It takes
time.
time. Look, I think the Knicks are going to be fine. I think next season with
Oh,
Mitch
for sure.
Robinson, they're going to run a double big. I think once Robinson's there, he's going to allow guys to stay home. You'll see better defense from Bridges. You'll see better defense from Anunoby.
For
I
sure.
think next year they're going to be solid. Maybe even later this year if Robinson comes back and actually kind of like acclimates and stays healthy. But it is a telltale as like, yo, trying to catch up isn't really a overnight thing. Like you can add the pieces, but it might be a year, 2 years until you're there. And then you're hoping that the Celtics have started to regress or they've had to
Mhm.
move on from guys with tough decisions because of the second apron. But yeah, if they win again this season, I feel like they've got no reason to feel any type of way about paying a big tax bill again next year and going for a free-peat. But we're getting ahead of ourselves, man. There's
One thousand
months left.
percent. I'm just
Getting
I'm
way
just
ahead.
happy. I like it. Let's get this. Let's get the second one in a row. Let's start there,
Yeah.
and then we have these
Yeah,
conversations for
I've
sure.
said all along, man, I'll be good with 2 out of 3. So
Yeah.
whether that's back to back and then you don't, or win one, lose one, win one, whatever it may be. But for right now, I'm feeling good about this team.
Yeah, me too, Adam. They just look really good. And like you said, if this is the team that shows up for the remainder of the season, night in, night out, all we ask for is the Celtics to show up. Like, just
Yeah.
show up. Like, that's it. That's all we're asking. We know at any point they can dominate a game. We know at any given point, they're finding ways to show you that they can be resilient too, right? They can come,
Hmm.
you can hit them with some adversity and they find a way to overcome it. And, that's what the NBA playoffs is all about. You're not going to win every single game in an NBA playoffs here. Some teams sweep, but you're not going to win every single game. You're going to go on a road. You're going to probably lose one at home, whatever. But it's how do you bounce back? Celtics after the All-Star break seem to be bouncing up and trending up. And so I'm hoping that they continue to show up so that they continue to be up. And the Celtics just continue to do what they do, man. They're going out there and they're winning big, right? These aren't close games. They're winning big.
Big, big. Some of these games are big. Like I said, beat the Knicks by a total over 3 games and a cumulative 63 points. That's big. That's the third seed in the East that you outscored by 63 over 3. You know what I mean? That's like ridiculous. That's 21 points a game on average that you've beat the Knicks. You've beat the Knicks by an average of 21 points a game, and that's the third team in the East.
Yeah, and
So,
and, and look
uh,
at how it goes, right? Like, and just imagine if the Celtics didn't stumble a little bit and the Knicks didn't fight back. You know what I'm saying? The Knicks didn't kind of like hang it up,
you're
turn it in,
talking
or whatever.
80 points.
Yeah, man. Like it's crazy. They got a big third quarter, second half from Cat. I know he got dinged up. Brunson was hitting his shots. And it's kind of always happens when you take out Jayson Tatum. I don't know if Jayson Tatum could play for 46 minutes, but sometimes he just needs to be on that basketball court.
It does, though. It does, man. His plus minus is ridiculous. With that, I'm going to let everybody go. There's 122 people watching on Twitter. Let me just say again, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just head on over the link, like just YouTube, the Celtics Chronicle, hit subscribe. That's free to do. Head over to the newsletter. That's in my bio. Click it, subscribe. There's a free option. You get 1 to 2 emails a week. And then if you go paid, you'll get one every 5 times out of 7. Also, thank you for watching, man. I think this has been a fun day. It was a matinee game, which means I got to watch live. Wayne helped me out by jumping on to just talk some hoops with me straight after the game, even though he was busy. So I'm always grateful for that. Wayne, man, we'll be back on Wednesday, right?
Yes, sir.
Wednesday between 12 and 1. Just watch the socials. I'll tweet it out before we go live. That's super fun. And make sure you're tuning in to me and Billy. We're up on here 3 to 4 times a week as well. Eventually, I'll be adding in a third show as well. Until then, catch everybody later, man. Boom.
Boom.
That was fun.
Yeah, man. Take it up, chop it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, get it out on the